Hello, welcome back to another episode of Good Guys Sports. Joined this week by myself, your host, Blake Gerke, Jackson Gerke, Mike Roby, and Blake Lamberger will be joining us shortly as well. And we are back after a week's break to cover all of the big happenings in sports currently. We're going to focus on a couple of the playoff matchups in the NHL and the NBA. And as well, we're going to touch upon a few news items, including the NFL schedule release that happened this past week on Wednesday, as well upon touching upon the PGA Championship taking place here in North Carolina as well. So lots of exciting things happening in the sports world as of this week in May. But we got to start here in Raleigh, North Carolina for the NHL playoffs, the Stanley Cup playoffs, as they call it. As we stand here today, we're taping this on the 15th of May. As we stand, only one second round series has been fully decided on the western side of the bracket. That's the Edmonton Oilers defeating the Golden Knights in 5 games. I think Edmonton's going to be a tough out as well as we saw last year with the likes of Connor McDavid. So they'll be facing the winner of Dallas Winnipeg series. Looks at this stage, Dallas is a likely winner from that series, being up 3 games to 1 after the most recent matchup between these two teams. So most likely we'll have a Edmonton Dallas matchup on the western side of the bracket. And jumping to the eastern side as well, Toronto took an absolute beating last night at home against the Florida Panthers to go down 3 games to 2. It's a bit of playoff experience hitting Toronto there with the Florida Panthers showing their class, and they'll be looking to close out Toronto in Game 6 on the 16th tomorrow. That is. Uh, and then, of course, here in Raleigh, Uncle Mike's not going to like this, but the Hurricanes are currently leading his Washington Capitals 3 games to 1 after an impressive 2 game showing here at the Novo by the Hurricanes.
Well, at least the Capitals are at home tonight.
Capitals are at home tonight with the chance to bounce back and send this to a Game 6 here in Raleigh.
Yeah.
So we can start there, Jackson. Obviously, you can tell where me and your allegiance lies. We're big Caniacs being here in North Carolina. Jackson, I'll start with you. How impressed have you been with the Hurricanes in this series? Given the fact as well, we should mention the Capitals had the best record in the Eastern Conference, and yet they find themselves up 3 games to 1.
Very impressive. You got to give the Carolina Hurricanes a lot of credit for um from the heart from the work and really really their goaltenders and the players that they really have been doing. They have been by far you and I watching it together, Blake, in real time on TV together, and we will again tonight. That Jackson Blake is really a fun name to say. Every time I watch him play, is really you and me about his name, which is really unheard of. Whenever I see a hockey player of that name, which to me is not, which to me, whenever I think of a player in a name for that sport, which to me it doesn't sound Canadian or Russian or Swedish or some other European country name that comes from that country, and sounds like to me that he's one of those players that comes from America. So yeah, I mean, I've been very impressed with the series, and it's so far it's been coming down the battle of the goaltenders, and I think and I think that the Hurricanes just really lit things up, and I think that they were just really been so dominant in their last few games against the Capitals, and I think that what it shows you is that the Hurricanes are just a better team at home than they are on the road, and that's just really what it comes down to. And I think, especially at the Nova Center in the last 2 games, now switching up to Capital One Arena tonight, that the Carolina Hurricanes just really becomes a nightmare for opponents in the NHL, and that is what they did in their last 2 games, and so really on the flip side for the Capitals, Alex Ovechkin just couldn't get any single points going. Like, my mom just couldn't even stand Ovechkin because she thinks that he's scary looking, and that he's just and that he's just doing all the sport checking, and
Well,
just being like
all old
really
men are
mean.
scary looking.
He's got a lot of gray hair, that's for sure.
Yeah, but not against our Carolina Hurricanes and Jackson Blake and those guys and our star defensemen and our forecheck and our players for the Carolina Hurricanes just really just what I would say. What I would say is every single year in this time of year, where what I would say is that it's a where that's it where that's it is a physical battle, hard
Right.
hitting hockey,
Mm-hmm.
just just the way you like it, and I love it, and that's the kind of hockey I love to watch, and that's really what's been happening in the last few games between the Capitals and the Hurricanes. But to me, overall, what about their last game, it's just a bad matchup for the Capitals because the Carolina Hurricanes really just were the better team in those last two games, and I just think it's going to be. I just think it's going to be hard to come from back a 3-1 deficit for the Capitals, even for their head coach of all the hard work that they were doing. But I want to make a bet here, so I will say this:
Okay.
if the Capitals come from behind and win the series, me and Blake are going to be forcing to wear Capitals gear. But
Oh,
but if the Hurricanes win tonight, then I'm going to force Uncle Mike to wear Carolina Hurricanes gear. And
wow.
that's just what it's going to come down to. And I think that's going to what's really what's how it's all going to really go down between those two teams in this potential matchup. And also, you go back to the last few meetings that those teams played against way before the playoffs have started back in early April, where you had the two Russians going at it in a fight, which I feel like you and Blake and I can be so into that these teams just like each other, and I feel like we could see more of that because they play in the same division and out in the Metro Division in the NHL, which I feel like to me we should see more of that, especially with all the bad blood and the hockey tough men out there on the ice can really just go right at it.
Okay, Jack, I'll take that bet,
Oh,
but you got to give me some odds. I mean, the Canes are up 3 games to 1.
I think Jack's negotiating from a position of
So,
power.
so if the Capitals win, then you have to wear Capitals gear, Nationals gear, and Commanders gear.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
here
Three.
we go.
I'll wear Canes if the Canes win, but if the Capitals were to win, you have to wear Capitals, Nationals, and Commanders.
Wow.
Wow. Wow.
I bet
That'll
that'd be a
make it a
lot of
fair.
DC
That'll
gear.
make it fair.
Wow. I'm not even sure how to top or add up from that after what you just said. Wow,
Jackson, you know what?
that's really
I
a lot.
think I
That's really
think
a lot right there.
I think because the
I think it's a
Carolinas
safe bet.
I think because Carolina's
Yeah.
already up 3-1, I think we should, if the Hurricanes go on to win the Eastern Conference, we should send Uncle Mike some Eastern Conference championship gear from the Hurricanes, and then he has to wear that on the show. How about that?
Oh, I love that.
There you go. There you go.
That's fine.
A little friendly
That's
wager.
fine.
But Mike,
That
let's talk about the series from the you're over there in the DMV. You're a big Caps fan, as we know from the show. What's gone wrong so far in these 4 games that we've seen?
well, everything. I think Canes are beating us on 5-on-5. There is very little uh, pen penalty plays. They're stopping us on the penalty plays, and the goalie is stopping anything that we are able to shoot. And the
Freddie.
Canes are way out shooting the Capitals. I mean, it's not even close.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to change their line for tonight, but this late in the season, it's it's gonna take a miracle in order for the Capitals to pull this off. But anything can happen. You got, as Davey Martinez always says, go 1-0. The
Absolutely, yeah,
Capitals just need to focus on tonight. Go 1-0
absolutely.
tonight, and we'll see. Interesting. Both home teams tonight are down three games to one,
Hmm. With
and
Winnipeg being the other one,
Winnipeg is down three. Yeah, and they're hosting the Stars tonight.
right?
Now, don't forget the Winnipeg came back from behind in Game 7 against the Blues, scoring 2 goals to tie the game with 1 minute and 56 seconds left in the third period, and then went on to win in overtime. So anything can happen. It ain't
It's
over until it's over.
it's true. It's true. We see in playoff hockey all the time. It's one of the most unpredictable postseasons in any of these sports, right? So we certainly don't want to rule anything out.
Yeah.
I think as well. I think going back to that first game, Mike, that Carolina ended up winning in overtime was a bit of a tone setter for the series as well. Because if you're able to get that series split away from home in that first two, and then obviously the Hurricanes really played off of the home crowd advantage in games 3 and 4, and that kind of set the tone for the series early. I felt like.
Yeah. No, I would agree. I mean, they're the team that's playing with a purpose, and hats off to them.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think you have to give credit to the offensive player that we've seen so far from
Yeah.
we call it the trident of Aho, Jarvis, and Svechnikov have really
Hmm.
been showing out so far in this playoffs, as you would expect. They've been a great unit in this postseason.
Yeah.
Um, and they've really stepped up so far in this playoffs. You say some of the you don't want to say some of the capital stars have maybe gone missing, but they're just not matching the level that the Hurricanes
Hmm.
attack has shown so far.
Yeah. I just wonder if the long season is starting to take effect on the Capitals,
It's entirely possible.
wearing
Do you
them
think? I
out.
mean, it would be fair to for Ovechkin to feel maybe a bit of fatigue given his age
Hmm.
and kind of how big of a season it was with him breaking that
Yeah.
record. Is that a factor here? You think as well? His production,
I mean, it's got to be because he hasn't had any production in at least this series,
right?
you know. But yeah, I was reading an article on the New York Times today talking about the Stars, uh,
They
and
they're
how
they're very dangerous.
and they're only playing right now at half, no, 50%. They got some players that are coming back from injury and everything. I mean, when they get completely healthy, they're going to be a team to watch.
No,
So
for sure,
it's going to
for
be
sure.
a good conference finals, on
No,
both
I think
sides.
Edmonton as well is obviously we saw them win the Western Conference
Hmm.
last year. Connor McDavid, one of the probably the biggest star in hockey right now. So
Yeah.
that Western Conference series, it looks like it's going to be Dallas. Edmonton is going to be a really great series. I would be surprised if that one didn't go 6 or 7 for sure.
Hmm. Yeah.
Jackson as well. I got to ask you about the series, Toronto, Florida. I was watching the game last night, and man, at least really laid an egg, didn't they? They've had a rough postseason history in terms of original six franchise, one of the biggest teams in hockey and all professional sports, and they just haven't really shown up in the postseason when it matters. Last night was a big example of that. Do you think Toronto can get back into this series, or do we think Florida won the series last night and they're gonna close it out at home in Game 6?
Florida won the series. It's over. They are going to this thing's going to be put in the bed and wrapped up. Sergei Shabrovsky was was a hot goaltender and he lit it up and he was unstoppable. And Austin Matthews and those Maple Leafs just couldn't get anything in the goal, and they were just playing like perimeter hockey, and they just couldn't like get anything in the zone, and they went scoreless most of the entire game, not a single point, and that's concerning if you're a Maple Leafs fan because they haven't been to the Stanley Cup final since 1967, 1 year prior to when my parents were born. So
Crazy.
yeah, that's just concerning and just real and just to even think about it, especially for those fans that they got for a playoff series and for all these 20 years that they've been in the postseason, they haven't gone past the first round or previously or later that they haven't reached the conference final or the Stanley Cup finals. If you in fact, the longest drought ever. So probably even the longest drought and the more and probably and probably in all of the more in all of the four North American pro sports leagues, other than the Dallas Cowboys being one of them. Although their drought, their last conference championship became in '96, but the Maple Leafs drought was even longer back in the '60s and '67. So that's concerning and and just a little bit worried if I'm a Maple Leafs fan because they just couldn't get any shots in the goal. Sam Bennett and the Florida Panthers and Paul Maurice showed up at the right time, and that they are the defending Stanley Cup champions for a reason. And it just shows you that how great and how dominant a team Florida is, and they just came to play and showed up, and that's and shows you, and that's just what they did is that they quiet the crowd at the Scotiabank Bank Arena and they silenced the crowd and possibly turned it into a church and a funeral that the Florida Panthers and just quiet the crowd there and up there in Toronto at the Scotiabank Bank Arena that those Maple Leafs fans and thought that it was supposed to be their year for Canada to win the Stanley for them to break through the drought. That Maple Leafs fan just really thought they had it. That the crowd was that the crowd was so electric that they were so into a pregame, and yet they let this one get away. And that's just a perfect example of it. And I think that the Florida Panthers just really won it, and the Maple Leafs just lose it
Yeah,
because they just played terrible hockey. They couldn't get anything going offensively, and
played a bit tight. Yeah,
oh yeah, and they just couldn't really get anything going on the power play or shots on goal or anything like that because Sergei Krabowski, their goaltender, just read it all and read the plays and it was just a complete blowout for those meltdown for those fans up in Toronto and Paul Maurice and the Florida Panthers just one win away from moving on possibly for back to the Eastern Conference Final for the next round. And the Florida Panthers were the better team tonight.
yeah, absolutely. I think I don't want to get ahead of myself, but as a Hurricanes fan, if we are able to advance against the series against the Capitals, I'm definitely more afraid of playing the Panthers given their playoff history the past couple of years than Toronto. So I'll be rooting for Toronto tomorrow night, but I'm kind of with you, Jack. I think Florida is gonna find their way to the ECF here. So certainly an interesting series to monitor from a Capitals Canes perspective as well. We'll be sure to bring updates to the Stanley Cup playoffs next week as we progress here closer and closer to the almighty Stanley Cup final, which we'll be certainly be looking forward to here on Good Guy Sports. Let's switch gears a little bit and do a bit of a recap update on the NBA playoffs, also going on alongside the NHL playoffs. I've personally been following NHL playoffs a bit more, but I think we should at least mention what's been happening in the NBA playoffs. So far, we have two teams that have clinched a spot in the conference finals, that being, interestingly enough, not maybe the teams you would expect on the Western side. Minnesota Timberwolves defeated the Golden State Warriors. Sorry, Steph, but it ain't happening for you this year. Anthony Edwards and the Wolves are making their way to the Western Conference Finals. And then as well on the Eastern side, the Indiana Pacers, four-seed Indiana Pacers, upset the Cleveland Cavaliers. It wasn't even an upset. It was a beatdown. They beat them in 5 games. So they're on the way to the Eastern Conference Finals against the winner of the Knicks Celtics series. Obviously, unfortunate news for the Celtics with Jason Tatum going down with an injury, although they were able to bounce back and extend the series to 6 games. Tomorrow night will be Game 6 in New York, where the Knicks can close out the Celtics and clinch their ticket to the Eastern Conference Finals against the Indiana Pacers. So the other matchup as well on the Western side, game tonight, is the Denver Nuggets taking on the OKC Thunder, number 1 seed. OKC can close out the Nuggets tonight and clinch that matchup against Minnesota in the Western Conference Finals. So some interesting happenings here for sure. Probably not the teams that we would expect if we end up getting Minnesota. OKC would be a team that we'd expect their number 1 seed if they're able to get in, but Indiana versus New York would be a really interesting Eastern Conference Finals. I don't think many people would have thought it would be Cleveland, Boston, and it looks like as it stands right now, we might have a Indiana, New York Knicks Eastern Conference Finals. Obviously, injuries, these things happen. You can never really predict, but been pretty interesting what's happening so far in the NBA, huh, Jack?
It sure has, Blake, with all this stuff with all this unpredictable going on in the NBA playoffs. And to me, before I bring it up, I'm sure any of you watch the NBA draft lottery or any of you care about it. Like, to me, what I think they should do is go back the old fashioned way where they bring out the ping pong balls and do it that way, because I wouldn't say it's rigged or anything. It's just it is just a
Bingo
it is
style.
just a yeah it is just a complete joke and absolute complete joke is the way I
So,
put at
okay.
it.
So
So
why do you think the NBA lottery is a complete joke? Because theoretically, multiple teams have a chance at number one. Obviously, we should recap as well. On Monday, the NBA draft lottery happened, and the Mavericks, who had a like a 1%, 2% chance to win the draft lottery, ended up winning it. So they have a chance to draft Cooper Flag number 1 overall. So why do you think it's not fair? Because obviously they had a low percentage, but the percentage ended up happening. So multiple teams technically do have a chance, but what are you proposing instead of the current format?
well, I would propose that they should go back to the format where the top seed with the best, where the team had the worst losing record to get the number 1 overall pick, which didn't happen,
So you think
which
it
didn't happen
should, so
this
you
time.
think it should be
So
like an NFL draft style where the team with the worst record gets the pick, the team with the second worst record gets the second pick, and like so on and so on. Is you think that'd be more fair?
I think so. That way it can draw up better TV ratings so that people can really care about compared to, like, say, right now. So I think really teams that get the number 1 seed with losing records should really matter for the most people with their TV audience, for those who really care about it and watch it. So I think for the example of it, when I saw it on Monday, that we thought Charlotte was going to get the top overall pick. That didn't happen.
Well, I think
We thought the Wizards were going to get the number 1 overall pick. That didn't happen either.
sorry, Mike.
We
So
got the
what?
6th pick.
Didn't
Yeah,
even get the second or third.
No, I got
Yeah, I think
hosed.
Jackson, the reason they don't do it that way like the NFL does is because they don't want teams to lose on purpose so they can get the number 1 pick. But teams still do that. Like Utah still like was definitely tanking and they had the worst record in the league. They've been 17 and 65. They had the worst record, but they didn't even end up getting a top 4 pick. So I'm kind of with you. Like I think so like years like this where a team like Dallas that what they ended up finishing 39 and 43, which is obviously way better record than like Utah Jazz, for example. But I just think the NBA doesn't want to incentivize losing, and so they try to flatten the odds and give everyone more of a chance. But I think to your point, this year in particular seemed a bit unfair given some of the teams that got left out. But that's kind of ultimately this year it could be a team like Dallas wins it. Next year it could be the team with the worst record that wins it, and it's just it's all up to randomness and numbers and percentages. So, but this year in particular definitely leaves a sour taste in a lot of teams' mouth, including Washington.
also Charlotte, where Blake Lumberger,
Yeah,
hometown team, thought that they were going to have a chance and be excited to get Cooper Flag as the number one overall pick as a player. Well, that didn't happen. So instead,
Did not.
he will be going to the Dallas Mavericks to possibly eat some barbecue and wear some cowboy hats and live the life out there.
And be traded to the Lakers.
That's it. Yeah,
Well,
eventually.
oh yeah. There you go.
Well, it's crazy that San Antonio won the second pick as well, and Philadelphia got the third pick. So these weren't even teams that had the worst record. Like Mike was saying, like the likes of Charlotte were at 4, Utah was at 5, Washington 6. So the top 3 teams weren't the worst 3. The following 3 were the worst 3. So definitely a rough draft for those teams that thought they had with the higher percentages for sure. But then again, that's just probability, right? I mean, you can never bank on a percentage. Everything is randomized and everything of that nature. So yeah, definitely a wild draft. But back to the playoff bracket, Jack. Are you intrigued by any of the matchups here? Obviously, we know Minnesota and Indiana are moving on to the next round. Knicks possibly closing out the Celtics. What team have you been most impressed by this postseason so far?
Oh, the New York Knicks. Let's face it, they have been by far the best fun team to watch. You got all the celebrities sitting courtside, including Spike Lee, the number one Knicks fan in the world, just doing his thing. And I think that Josh Hart, and all of those players,
Brunson
and Josh Hart and Karl Anthony Towns and Miles Bridges and OJ Onobi, and those guys really stepped it up, and is part of the reason why they're up 3-1, even though they lost in the previous game of Celtics. That they have been the most exciting, fun team to watch, and just really showing up at the place right time and minutes. So I think the Knicks, to me, are the most exciting team to watch. In fact, I think, in my opinion, they are by far the most exciting and fun team to watch than Blake Lumberger's hometown Charlotte Hornets team.
Well, that's for sure. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, I've said it.
So what's your? It's not a hot take at all. That's a pretty cool take, I would say.
Definitely a hot take.
I mean, I think everyone agrees Charlotte's pretty bad compared to the Knicks. But what's your prediction right now for the NBA Finals? Do you think the Knicks will win the East, and then who will win the West?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I can't believe we're even predicting this or saying this, but it's just going to be a tough one. I think that I'm getting we could be getting flashbacks of the 1999 Eastern Conference Finals, where those teams last met each other in the playoffs. So
Knicks Pacers, you mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And so I think I might lean towards the Knicks, but I could be wrong. But
what about on the Western side? Do you think
the Pacers are a great team too, so don't count them out.
No, for sure. Yeah, they've obviously proved their doubters wrong this whole postseason, haven't they? What about on the Western side? You feeling OKC maybe winning the West? They look pretty strong.
I agree.
They have to close out Denver tonight, though.
Right, got to get past Joker and
not an easy task.
Oh no, not at all. You got to get past the Joker and those Denver Nuggets, and you just got to get past.
So what's your prediction then? Are you thinking, is that a yes for OKC to win the West? I want your prediction.
Yes. I think they'll move on to win the Western Conference Finals.
You think they'll beat Minnesota and Anthony Edwards?
We'll see, but it's going to be tough. But listen.
Well, you just said yes, so.
Well, yeah, but Carl Anthony, but yeah, I'm sorry, but Anthony Edwards, Ant-Man, is very good too. So
yeah, of course, yeah. No, I think Minnesota's a fun team to watch. Mike, are you with Jackson? You feeling like a Knicks OKC maybe? Is that what you're leaning towards?
I'll go with the Knicks. But in the West, I'm leaning towards the Timberwolves.
Minnesota, okay. I like it. New York, Minnesota, okay.
I mean, they took care of the Warriors.
The Warriors, obviously, Curry being injured is a factor in that series. But to be honest, even if they had Curry, I think Minnesota would have won that series.
Yeah.
Given the way they're playing right now. So Yeah, I think I'm kind of leaning with. I think I'm leaning OKC just over Minnesota, and then I'm leaning Knicks over Pacers. Knicks to beat the Celtics without Tatum tomorrow night, and then beat Indiana. But we can obviously reassess once we know the full conference finals matchups. But that's kind of what I'm feeling right now.
Yeah. They had photos of Tatum come in his hospital bed after his Achilles tendon surgery.
Tough, yeah, yeah, tough one to see. Tatum, obviously,
He may be out for the beginning of next year.
it's going to be a long recovery for him. We obviously
Yeah.
wish him the best.
Yeah.
He's a great player, a
He
great
is.
character. So the NBA will definitely miss him next season. That's for sure.
Yeah, but the good news is that the Celtics can always find ways to bounce back, even when they lose a star player. So Kyle Porzingis and then one of their young players really stepped it up for the Celtics, and I really think that, and so I really think that even though it's far the series is far from over, even though the Knicks are feeling great about their chances about teams going up 3-1, though they are concerning at the same time, which everybody knows about that. But what they say about the media that really Derek White and Kyle Porzingis are those young players and that really took its place of Jason Tatum that really stepped it up to save off elimination in in that Game 5 win for the Celtics at the TD Garden. So
Yeah,
I think that really just shows you of how they of how Joe Medusa and those locker room and those guys can really find ways to win, even if it's in a ugly way. So even when it's not even though it's not perfect, it wins a win for them. And I think that and the Celtics have really show you that they still can be one of those NBA teams that can climb back a 3-1 deficit. Just go back to last year where they were down that similar situation against the Miami Heat. What did they do? They forced a Game 7 and come back to win it all from a 3-1 deficit. So it's happened before against um, Joe Mazzulla. They have some tough guys and veterans on this roster and those guys. So I wouldn't push the panic button if you're a Celtics fan just yet because there's still belief, even though it's not heading in your favor for the series lead, but there's still a chance, even though you've got one and you get swept, which is the worst thing they didn't want to do. But at least you're on the board for the series. But now, just like Uncle Mike said, with what the Nationals manager said, just one game at a time, and I think that and I think the Celtics will see how it goes, and they'll do just fine.
yeah, they've got plenty of talent on their roster apart from Tatum, so we certainly don't want to rule out them getting back into this series. So we will certainly see, won't we? All right,
We will.
I want to jump now to we're recording this, like I mentioned, on Thursday the 15th, and yesterday, in case you weren't aware, which I'm surprised if you weren't aware because of the marketing that was behind this, we had the NFL schedule release. So we had a couple of previews, a couple of games maybe leaked a bit early. We knew some of the bigger matchups, maybe perhaps beforehand, but yesterday we had the full schedule release. All 32 teams know their opponents, the dates, times, etc., primetime games, international games, all the works. So, Jack, I know you were following the NFL schedule release pretty closely. First of all, how excited were you to see the full slate of matchups, and what were your reactions once you digested and saw a lot of these NFL matchups that we're going to be having this year?
Very excited, very excited. Although I will point out that when I was watching one of those shows on the network schedule release show that nobody is getting a lot of respect for our Seahawks. Like, come on now, they got to do better than that. I mean, you think about it. I'm not seeing any Seahawks going to any of the international games, which would be a very cool experience. You want to get that international experience and flavor too, which I feel like would be a great thing to go for me to go with Miss Karen to be to be part of the experience and the atmosphere and what the town or the city or the country has to offer, which would be a once in a lifetime or a special opportunity for me to go. But they're not going this year. But at least
Yeah. So I can hear. Why don't I'll read off the international games because I think that's this year in particular we have a lot of interesting international locations. We have in week one, like we had last year, we had the Brazil game where we had the Chiefs taking on the Chargers in Brazil. Hopefully the pitch is in a bit better condition than it was last year for that Eagles Packers game in Brazil. Then we have, interestingly enough, week four, one that I'm excited for is the Vikings taking on the Steelers in Dublin, Ireland, which will be a really fun matchup. I'm really excited about that. That is in week four. And then we've got a big slate of London games as well. Minnesota is staying in the UK and Ireland for week five to take on the Browns at London. Then the Broncos are taking on the Jets as well in week six. That will be at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for the game against the Browns. Then in week five, and then in so week five, Vikings Browns at the Tottenham Stadium. Week six, Jets Broncos at the Tottenham Stadium in London as well. And then in week seven, you got the Jaguars. They always play one game in London, right? They're the London Jaguars. Some refer to them as taking on the Rams at Wembley. And then we got the Germany game, week 10. And then, interesting enough, I believe this is the first time we have a game in Spain, in Madrid, week 11, Dolphins Commanders. The first Madrid. So, Mike, I'll jump to you. Are you going to be having wine and tapas while watching your Commanders playing in Spain?
That's gonna be that's gonna be a good game. I mean, Commander schedule. Man, talk about prime time. They have no 1 o'clock games in October and November. It's all
Wow.
so
It's
that's
that's the drawback of being a good team now.
that's a good team. Yeah, we've got the Lions coming in. We're actually playing the Seahawks at home on November 2nd.
that's going to be on Sunday Night Football
Oh,
and
Yeah,
Sunday night.
on November 2nd. Mark your calendar.
yeah. And then we're hosting the Lions, who we beat in the playoffs last year. And then our last four games, we go on the road against the Giants. Then we come home, we play the Eagles, and then the Cowboys. And then the last game of the season is in Philadelphia against the Eagles again.
Woof.
Our last four games are against division rivals.
It's the NFC East for
yeah.
you.
One game that you're forgetting, Uncle Mike, is Cowboys Commanders on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
How are you going to spend your Christmas with your family?
What
wait.
family?
Oh, well, I didn't mean to say it that way.
If they're not wearing burgundy and gold, they don't exist.
No Cowboys fans at Christmas dinner.
Well, that's a given.
That's the standard. Yeah.
That's a given.
Well, I mean, look, Commanders, Cowboys on Christmas Day. I get a lot of questions about why would you want to watch a Commanders game on Christmas Day where you have to spend time with all your family and relatives and opening presents and all your grandkids and all the family relatives.
Well, you get that done early in the morning.
I know, but all I'm saying is that you spend every year on Christmas, you spend time with your family at your house with Aunt Lori, and yet I don't know if you'll be watching the Commanders Cowboys game on Christmas Day, which I'm
sure they'll find time for it.
I know, but I think that
in the afternoon, see open presents in the morning, and then have a bit of.
You'll be able to fit it in.
You have some leftover turkey from Christmas Eve as
Now,
a sandwich while you're watching the game.
Thanksgiving Day, you got the Kansas City Chiefs at Dallas.
That's a good one. That's a great one. Usually for the Thanksgiving games, we end up having matchups that we're not particularly excited about with Dallas or maybe Detroit, but I think we got a great Thanksgiving slate with Green Bay taking on Detroit, Kansas City at Dallas, and then Bengals, Baltimore as well. So they really loaded up that Thanksgiving, didn't they?
Yeah, They
Like,
did.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that and
yeah.
the season opens up in Philadelphia.
On my birthday, by the way, September 4th, taking on
Happy
the
birthday.
Dallas Cowboys. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I think that should be an early birthday present for me.
That
Yeah.
that that matchup is surely an early birthday present. Definitely, definitely. Yeah, and then I think we have three games, so similar to they try to do the same thing on Christmas Day as well. So we
Mhm.
mentioned Dallas taking on Washington, and
Yeah.
then Detroit, Minnesota at around 4:30, and then Christmas Day night game, Broncos taking on the Chiefs. So Chiefs obviously always have a lot of primetime games, given it's the Chiefs, right? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that opening game on your birthday, Jack, is a great one. Obviously,
Oh, yeah.
um,
Oh, yeah.
that's the Cowboys traveling to Philadelphia. The Cowboys always get a hostile reception in Philadelphia, so they're not going to have to wait very long for that one, are they?
No.
Oh, no. All right. So I know we have don't have enough time to do all 232 NFL games, but
We do not know.
I do want to try to break down real quick on the upcoming Seattle Seahawks schedule that were a whale that that as a fan that I'm connected with
Yeah,
people that really treat me
you don't
well.
have to read the whole schedule, but just if any games stand out to you, a couple of matchups maybe that you're interested in.
Well, yeah, I mean, this will be really quick, and I promise you, I will go and I will go and break it down right now. So we began the season at we began the season against the division rival, the Sherman Bowl, against the 49ers on September 7th. That's the 1 o'clock game, 10 o'clock Pacific time there. And then you go and then follow that up. Follow that up you you go to Pittsburgh and talk about a reunion game with talk about a reunion game with DJ Metcalf, now a Pittsburgh Steeler. So that would be a
That's right.
fun
Yeah,
matchup that I think anybody or our family that we know who's a Steelers fan, that would just be a back and forth at it right there. Especially with the going up against the terrible towels up there in Pittsburgh and the Steel City. That would be a fun experience for the Seahawks to play out there out in the Steel City for those terrible towels waving all over in the Steel City of Pittsburgh. That should be a lot of fun. And then after that, you
Oh,
go
Jackson,
home.
we can't read off every game, but I want to jump
I know.
to they're playing the Commanders on Sunday night that we talked about on November 2nd, right? And
Yeah,
then so that should be a fun game, right?
yeah. So I want to say this. So I want to try to do this real quick. So I say they lose to 49ers at home, and then they'll lose to Pittsburgh. That's an 0-2 start. The Saints, they'll beat the Saints. Cardinals, they're going to beat the Cardinals. Buccaneers, I'm going to give them a loss in that one. At the Jaguars, they're going to beat the Jaguars. Texans, they're going to beat the Texans. Um, and then at the Commanders, ooh, I think I'm going to give them a loss because they got to go up against the Commanders defense and Jaden Daniels because he has been playing red hot lately, and the Commanders have had the longest odds to make the playoffs, to make it this far. But look at where they are now. They're 16-1 this year, so they just did the put script to do the complete turnaround for those fans of for the special leadership and Dan Quinn, those guys of how and and the front office and really how they really did a great job of this organization. So
Next game.
give a lot of credit to that. But yes, back. Yes, moving on. Cardinals, we're gonna sweep the Cardinals. That is just that is just that is just a complete contest right there. So we'll definitely sweep them. At the Rams, ooh, that's going to be a revenge game for Cooper Kupp. Well,
That's right. Yeah.
they're gonna boo him in L.A. and
Nah, then
ooh,
no, they won't. They won't. They won't.
oh, I will. I don't know about that, Blake. They are gonna. I take that back. I think they're going to, but you never know.
We'll see.
But you're right.
We'll see.
They're division rivals, so keep that in
That's true.
mind.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that's
you're
true.
probably right. You're probably right. So I say they lose to the Rams. So I'll give you that. And then at the Titans, they are going to beat the Titans. And
Seahawks in Smashville.
oh yeah, Smashville, and Nashville. I love that. And then the Vikings. Ooh, that's going to be another revenge game
For Sam
for
Darnold.
Sam Darnold. Yeah, that's
There's a
right.
lot of
That's
revenge
right.
games
And
on the Seahawks schedule.
then at the and then next up at the Falcons, they are going to beat the Falcons again this year, and the Dirty Birds are just going to be the Dirty Birds are going to have a losing streak again to the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks are going to go to the ATL at Mercedes-Benz Stadium and beat the Falcons again this year, and then you return home to play the Colts. They're going to beat the Colts because the Colts are not that great of a team this year. The Rams, I think we'll lose. I think we'll lose to the Rams again, and then at the Panthers, we're that's a win. The Panthers are not that great of a team. We're gonna beat those Panthers out in Charlotte out of Baker Stadium, and then at the 49ers, we're going to close out the season with the 49ers, and we're going to close that out with a loss. So I did my entire I did my entire breakdown with Seahawks, Blake. So
Nice.
what is the record? So what does the record give you after all those games? Uh, um I have breakdown and break down to on what what does that give me?
I was not following along with my pen and paper, but they finished 10-7 last year. I think with the additions, I'm gonna give them I'm gonna, I mean, to be fair, like it's not the hardest schedule because I don't think the NFC West is as good as it used to be. I know I'm a little bit biased because I do like the Seahawks, but I'm gonna give them 12-5 this year, Jackson.
Okay, I like it. I like it. I like where
I
you're
think
going there.
I think given the schedule, I think the only really tough games on paper you would say are um, probably at Washington, maybe at the Rams. Vikings are at home, not too worried about that. I mean, I think the 49ers are not what they used to be, so I don't see too many losses on the schedule, Jackson. I'm going to be honest with you.
I don't either. I think that this could be a complete good winning streak season for our Seahawks, and I think that our family and our friend and our family and our people that love me will make me very proud after what you said there. So
Uh,
also, Blake,
yeah.
what about the hardest strength of schedule? From what I'm seeing,
Uh-huh.
I'm looking at the Giants, the Chicago Bears, the Lions,
Yeah.
the Eagles, the Cowboys. One of those teams that are on the list. Let's see. What about for the easiest strength of schedule for the NFL? I think if strength of schedule for the NFL,
I think
I
it
would
would be
have to think I would have to think it's I would think it has to be Washington, the Commanders, maybe. I don't know. One of those teams.
it looks like the easiest is the 49ers actually. 49ers, Saints, Patriots, the have the three easiest. I mean, you don't really know before the season. Some teams might improve, some teams might get worse. But before we jump to a quick PGA Championship review slash preview, Mike, I want to ask you about the Commanders. Now that you've seen the schedule, obviously they finished runners up in the NFC East to the eventual Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. Uh, I believe I think it'd be a dumb question to ask you if you're optimistic because obviously you are. Are you optimistic enough in the Commanders to think they have the chance of possibly winning the NFC East this year, given that we've seen the schedules now?
That's a tough one. I think they'll definitely go 12-5 again this year and make it into the playoffs. Big hurdle to upset the Eagles as the number one team in the NFC East. Um, it Interested to see how the Eagles defense survives losing a couple of big studs from last year. But we'll see. I'm optimistic that the Commanders have rebuilding their offensive line, making it stronger. They got two huge tackles now to protect Daniels,
Yeah.
and he's got some additional people to throw to. So I'm optimistic the Commanders will make the playoffs. And in the end, that's all you really need to do is make the playoffs because that's a brand new season.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I think there's certainly much optimism in DC. We got a few minutes left here on the show, so I do want to touch upon, as I mentioned earlier, we are currently in the middle of the PGA Championship, this year's second golf major, obviously, first being the Masters won by Rory McIlroy, where he completed a career Grand Slam. The PGA Championship currently ongoing here in North Carolina, not in the Triangle, but in Charlotte, North Carolina, at Quail Hollow Golf Club. Interesting leaderboard so far. Not a lot of the big names. A lot of the big names have actually struggled so far. I think the current leaderboard is Ryan Gerard,
Gerard.
not Steven Gerrard, Ryan Gerard, and then Cam Davis, and then a couple other names kind of scattered throughout. So
How's
interesting.
how's Justin Thomas?
Gosh, I have to scroll down pretty far before I see
Okay.
Justin Thomas.
Okay.
Was he your picker before
Yeah.
this? Uh, I'm looking for him. He's currently he's two over, so
Okay.
not he's not great, but the
Yeah.
leaderboard, the top score right now is five under. So
Okay.
someone probably will. Obviously, we've only had one round so far as we record this on
Yeah.
Thursday, but lots of golf to be played. But Jack, what are your reactions so far to this first round, and your overall thoughts, predictions for this major?
Oh, oh, it has been a long day for those players after all this rain and storms that they have gotten for the past few days. I want to talk about what happened on the 16th tee, where Rory McIlroy, Sky Scheffler, and Xander Schauffele all went in the water and turned it into a disaster. It was just hard to believe, and they were just really just one of the toughest holes, anywhere from 16 to 18, the toughest strength of holes in all the tournament out there in Quail Hollow, which can really bite you, and that's what it can do to you in that golf course. So I just think the Quail Hollow Golf Club, of how they really designed it, just want to make things the hard way and more tougher, and not a lot of easy holes. There was definitely water in play, so that does play a factor, and I think that's what really was my biggest um, story headline heading into this. But for me, but for me, but but for me, my biggest takeaway is Ryan Gerard, who, believe it or not, Blake, if you don't know much about him, which I do, that he was actually born in North Carolina and actually lives in Raleigh, but he went to school at UNC. So that just
Boo.
yeah, so that just pains me to say it as a Duke fan, but so far he has had the lead when I was watching it most of the afternoon, for the most part of it. But now, as it stands, it's currently Cam Davis with the lead on top. So from Australia, so that's where things stand. But Roy McIlroy, that was supposed to be his tournament. Like, he is undefeated. Like, this was supposed to be his home. Like, he owns this golf course. He has won there before multiple times, even when he's coming from a major at Augusta National. And that just tells you that this golf course just really can become unpredictable, and you just never know what's going to happen. That's just the beauty of this golf tournament, especially when it comes to major championship golf. So that just shows you and tells me that anything can happen, and that's the reason why you play 4 rounds of golf, and that just really and it can just bite you and get you in any way, and that's what it can do to you, and that's just what is on hold and happened at the golf tournament down in Charlotte, at the Quail Hollow Country Club.
Yeah. Rory's +3.
He's struggled so far, yeah.
Not
I
his
bel
best day.
I believe Scheffler,
In
McIlroy, and Schauffele all double bogeyed the 16 in the
Yeah.
round today.
Wow. Yeah,
So it
Scheffler's
must have been
ended
a tough one.
-2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, Sepp Straka was coming off a win last week at the Truist Championship up there at the old school racket club up in Philadelphia, which, by the way, that was of course my dad grew up in when he lived in Philadelphia most of his lifetime, most of his childhood, when he was a kid, and he could tell you stories all about it. That it was his home golf course, being from the Philadelphia, and especially taking his grandfather up there to play golf at the time when he was a kid, and he can tell you more stories all about it, especially tell you all about it whenever we get him on as a guest. But yeah, Seth Straka and the Truist Championship at one of the signature events of the PGA Tour. So it was supposed to be the Wells Fargo Championship this year, which is held at Quail Hollow Country Club down in Charlotte, but this year they decided to pull it back up to Philly at the Record Club because of the major championship that's being played there this year, which to me makes a lot of sense, and that's what they did. So
Yeah.
there's that.
And Scotty Scheffler did not get arrested this year.
Well,
That's the main thing. As long as he
well,
can keep his beak clean this year.
well, I think he's Mike, I think he's made his. I think he's learned from mistake and not to be in that situation again. So I think that he's corrected it all from doing the right thing and making those press conferences and doing all the investigations. I think now that he's gotten it over with and all the taken care of, it wasn't all of his fault, Mike. It wasn't
Oh,
one of those
I know.
wrongdoing.
It was just, yeah, they
Misunderstanding.
yeah, uh exactly.
I
I
think
was just
Quail. I
making
think
a bad joke.
Quail Hollow is they've got their logistics running a bit better there.
Yeah.
But no, it's an interesting
Right.
tournament. I think this is. I mean, obviously, we don't want to make too many snap judgments after just one day of golf, but the
Mhm.
leaderboard is certainly wide open right now. So you have to say it's anybody's tournament as we sit here today on Thursday. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna back my guy. Keep an eye out for
So who is your guy?
Ludwig Aberg.
Aber.
I think
He's
he's due.
-1. I think he's -1 right now.
He is. I think
Yeah.
given the tight leaderboard right now, he's my Adidas branded golfer.
Yeah.
I think he's due for a major. So if it's not this one, it might be
Hmm.
the Open or the US, but
Yeah.
certainly one to
I
keep an
like
eye out
Aber.
for. He's he's
Yeah.
he's my tip for the rest of this weekend.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Jordan Spieth, even though it's not
Jordan
going his
Spieth, he
way.
still plays golf?
He does.
He
He
hasn't
does.
he hasn't done anything in a while, has he?
Well, I mean that's really my best option for right now, but that's not going to go well for me for my prediction. But
I mean,
who
you made it. You
cares?
made it. You made
Who
it.
cares?
Is there a golfer you're watching,
Yeah.
Mike?
I was well early today when I was trying to figure this out and pretending I haven't looked at the leaderboard now. Um,
Clean
Justin
slate.
Thomas
Yeah, I mean
coming off of
that's
his win off at the Heritage.
honestly,
Uh,
seven back from the leaderboard is not an unmountable.
he won the PGA Championship the last time it was at Quail Hollow back in 2017,
Yeah,
and he won the PGA Championship in 2022 when it was in um, Southern Hills at Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Mm. And I know that Rory McIlroy hasn't done well lately this year in the tournament, but if you go back to his history,
what do you mean? He just won the Masters.
well, that too. What he's got,
Oh,
what he's
you mean in the PGA Championship?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's done the
But I mean,
career Grand
you got
Slam.
to say he's hot right now.
Well,
He just
yeah,
won a
of
Masters. So
course, of course. That's my point. That's what I'm saying. Like, of course. So he's won the career Grand Slam, and one of
he won
those.
the
Well,
yeah
yeah. Well, I was going to say that one of
yeah.
the majors that he won, the Wanamaker Trophy, was actually at Congressional Golf Club, in Uncle Mike's neck of the woods back in 2011. So I'm sure he knows that and remembers it very well.
Yeah, so
And he's won a major there.
he won the PGA at Kiowa Island in 2012, and then he won it at Valhalla, which is Louisville. They had it last year, right?
Yeah.
In
Mhm.
2014. So yeah, to your point, he hasn't won the PGA in a decade. and doesn't look like he's in pole position right now, Rory. But he won the Masters, so he doesn't care about anything right now, apart from he'll be fine.
Oh, yeah, he will. He will. Blake, he's tough, and he's so used to it. He's played this game for a long time. He knows what he's doing.
Indeed. Indeed. All right. Well, I think we are just about out of time here on Good Guy Sports. We went through a lot of different sports, lots of different tournaments, playoffs, etc. So, good to be back after a week off. So, stay tuned for more episodes coming in as we get closer and closer to the Stanley Cup Finals, NBA Finals, golf majors, tennis majors, etc. We got an exciting spring and summer coming here on Good Guy Sports. So, on behalf of myself, Blake Gerke, Jackson Gerke, Mike Roby, just want to say thank you for tuning in. I hope everyone has a great weekend.
Hey, you too, and don't forget the puck drop is happening right now. So as soon as we sign off, we are going to be watching. We are going to be watching the game together.
We're off to DC to watch the Canes close it out.
Yes, we are.
Go Caps.
Go Canes.
Go Canes.